I think we all know when it comes to college football, there are certain programs that are just a cut above the rest, the real elite job openings. And when you have the opportunity to go to one of those schools, even if you're enjoying incredible success at, let's say, a program at the next level, you typically have to go to that elite job opening. You just must. I think about back in the day when Bill Self was the head coach at Illinois. I know this is college basketball, but you get my point. Illinois at that time was a pretty solid top 20, top 25 in the nation type of basketball program. Kansas is an elite college basketball program. Kansas calls, you must go. And then you stay unless you want to go to the pros or somebody else backs the Brinks truck up and pays you even more money to take another elite job. Typically, you don't get to an elite job, enjoy success there, and then take a step back within a year. And that's basically what Jimbo Fisher has done, and I was really caught off guard and surprised by the move. Now, maybe I don't keep up with this stuff a ton. Maybe there's more backstory there. But you were at Florida State. You were at one of the true premier programs in all of college football. There in the state of Florida, one of the hotbeds of college football recruiting, with all that history under Bobby Bowden, the history that you have created, the national championship that you have won, playing in a conference in the ACC that is on the come up with Clemson and Miami and Virginia Tech and other teams. That's like one of the jobs of jobs to have in college football, along with the Alabamas, the Floridas, the Ohio States, the Oklahomas, the USCs. It's one of those type of jobs. I think I said Ohio State. If I didn't, I'll throw them in there. But you get the point. Florida State is in that mix. They really, truly are. So you would find it very surprising that a guy that enjoyed success there is so eager to leave there. Because there are so many built-in advantages by being the coach there. I was just really, really surprised, frankly stunned, to see that Jimbo Fisher couldn't wait to get the hell out of Tallahassee to go down to College Station, Texas. It's not like he's going from Florida State to Florida, let's say, or he's going from a Florida State to a USC, or a Florida State to an Alabama or Ohio State, or something along those lines. Then I get it. You're at least going from one elite program to another. Or if you were saying you were going to the NFL, then I could at least see wanting to take that next step up and take a new challenge, and you probably could get more money from that because you've accomplished quite a bit at the college level already. So I was surprised that, and to think about it, you went from Florida State to Texas A&M, which is at least one step back, if not two. Why would you do that? One, maybe you would see a coach do that if he thought he was on the precipice of getting fired. I don't see that coming for Jimbo Fisher if he was staying at Florida State. Not anytime soon. That national title buys you a lot of leverage and buys you quite a bit of time. And even with the kind of bad, disappointing season, it was one bad, disappointing season. I'm just saying. Maybe it's one of those things where you feel like things are going to get worse, so you want to get out while you still have some leverage, while you are still a somewhat valuable commodity. And I can see where that maybe comes into play. But you're still at Florida State. You're still recruiting in the state of Florida. And you're still getting some big marquee talent there at Florida State. There's always going to be 4- and 5-star talents that want to play at Florida State because it's Florida State. So I couldn't think it was that. The other thing I could think of is that maybe he's concerned that with Clemson and Miami, that maybe Florida State's not going to enjoy the same type of success as it has in the past. But you're still right in that mix. One bad season does not automatically take you out of that mix. And when you base it off of recent history, the recent history for Florida State is much better than Miami's is. And close to on par with Clemson, I would suppose. So it couldn't really be that. One other thing that I would think of as to why a coach would be in such a hurry to leave where he's enjoyed success is maybe there are some upcoming sanctions coming for the program. See, Pete Carroll, when he went from USC, he couldn't wait to get Seattle. He knew what the hell was going on, and so does anybody with a brain. I don't think there's anything outside of the norm for Florida State. Unless the boosters and the alumni have stepped up their financial investments in the recruiting process, I don't see where there would be any massive sanctions coming down at this point. Could be, but I don't get it. So why did Jimbo Fisher go to Texas A&M? It's very simple. He has 75 million reasons to love the Aggies. I mean, it's clear that Florida State was willing to let him leave, and Florida State was not going to give him this type of financial investment. And when you talk about this type of financial investment, this is significant. 75 mil guaranteed over 10 seasons. That means you're not going anywhere. You are a coach that is at a higher level than the program is. So that means you, in theory, elevate the program, meaning while there are high expectations, the risk of losing you and bringing in somebody else to do the job better just isn't there. So it kind of quiets the fan base. You know, maybe if you're looking at it, you feel like I've already won a national title at Florida State. I'd like to go do something else and go somewhere else. And I can understand that, and I can kind of get the appeal of it. I don't know if I'd be wanting to go into the SEC where I'd have to contend with an Alabama, Georgia, and Auburn every year. But when all is said and done, sports are still a business, and business means money. And if Jimbo Fisher could get Texas A&M to give him $7.5 million per season to come to College Station, he'd be nuts not to do so. That is not just some money. That is just not a lot of money. That is a shit ton of money for a college football head coach. And what Jimbo Fisher has done now by taking this contract is say in a few years, let's say if he does take Texas A&M to another level and gets him into that national title picture, that college football playoff picture, now his baseline is $7.5 million a year. That means he could probably con Texas A&M to throw in even more money on that contract, giving him an extension, which means they'll put him up to $8.5, $9 million a year. Not to mention, if he is able to do a good enough job at Texas A&M, there could be other schools that potentially in a couple of years come calling. Now he could use this school who has given him all this shit ton of money and set that baseline for him as leverage against the other school, and he might be able to get himself $9 to $10 million a year. Or if he wants to go to the NFL and he has success at Texas A&M, it'd be hard for some type of desperate owner or general manager to not look at Jimbo Fisher and say, he won a national title here at Florida State. He went to a worse situation in Texas A&M, and he made them contenders. We feel like this guy could get the job done at the NFL. I'm not saying he could. I'm not saying he couldn't. But somebody at some point in time might think that he's a fit for the NFL level. So all of a sudden, it's going to take a minimum of $10 million a year to get him to go from Texas A&M to the NFL. So from a money, from a leverage, from a power play standpoint, this move makes all the sense in the world for Jimbo Fisher. And when it comes to Florida State, I guess leave before you're no longer the hero. Leave before they really hate you. And if you were going to make this change and you wanted a change of scenery and you wanted to go somewhere different, you're going from one big-time conference in the ACC to another perhaps even bigger-time conference in the SEC. And instead of Florida, you're going to a bigger state in Texas, which has its own deep-seated, proud history of high school football. You've got a massive recruiting base built right in. And at a time where the best program in the state of Texas is TCU, not Texas, with the resources that a Texas A&M could throw out there, it might make a lot of sense for a Jimbo Fisher to go there. I'm still surprised in general. I'm not a huge fan of leaving an elite job to go to a non-elite job. But when you look at the situation, to be able to go to the state of Texas and still be in a major recruiting hotbed, to get the amount of money that he did, to get $7.5 million a year, $75 million total over 10 years guaranteed, he honestly would have been nuts not to go.